Oh, people, come on.
I'll second that.
Trying to figure out why everybody logs in all different ways all the time.
I don't know.
Come on. Okay.
Sorry I'm late, everybody.
Oh, that's okay. I think we're good to go. We have quorum and Bob is coming.
Yes, I thought he said he was, so
Okay.
just making sure he's not in as an attendee and not a panelist, because
Okay.
I don't see him on the list.
You can open the meeting.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll open the meeting for Inland Wetlands Agency of Madison, Connecticut at 7:02 p.m. on October 4th, 2021. Our first agenda item is 21-25, 66 Wildcat Springs Road. This is for voting on tonight. We received it last week, and it looks like we have the owner, the applicant here.
Yes, hi.
Hi. So I remember from last time we had questions about slope and distances from the proposed pool and pool house from the wetlands area. And looking at the application, looks like I still, and maybe I didn't look quick enough. I looked too quickly, but were the elevations there? I don't know.
So I know that you guys had asked for the measurements. So I had Tom from Aquatic Pools. He came out and he measured, he staked out the pool. And I had sent those pictures to Maria. I know that you guys had wanted the pictures. So I sent her the pictures of the pool staked out with the pool house. And Tom measured from the water's edge of the pool to the closest point of the inland wetlands line from where Rich Snartsky, the soil scientist, had come out and flagged. So it was 52 feet from the water edge to the inland wetlands flagged line from Rich Norsky.
From the pool, proposed pool edge to the wetlands?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep, from the proposed pool edge, the closest water edge to the wetlands, the closest point of the wetlands line. And then the corner of the pool house to the closest wetlands line in that area was 51 feet. He also staked out the pool house and did the measurement from there to the flags.
okay.
I'm kind of interested. I looked at the sketch, at those pictures we saw this earlier today and the other day. How close, or how many trees are you gonna have to remove beyond where that's staked out?
None of the trees have to be removed. There's a few that may like overhang, like some of the leaves may fall, maybe they could be trimmed, but right now where it's staked out, nothing has to be removed in terms of trees.
Okay, you're gonna get a lot of leaves in the pool,
Yeah.
in the fall in particular, and even in the spring or summer. How are you gonna handle that?
So if any had to be removed, it would be, there's only two little skinny trees on the bump out. I don't know if you guys have the pictures that I had sent to Maria. There's just one little area that comes out a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think if anything, it would just be those trees, those two small trees. But other than that, I don't really think any of the other trees overhang where the staked out pool is to, you know, we wouldn't remove any of those other trees. A lot of it is, there's trees, but a lot of it is a lot of weeds, in there.
There's a lot of what?
It's a lot of it's a lot of brush and like weeds and things.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the staked out pool area.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Well, I think, you know, removing trees would need, you would need to talk to us about that.
Yeah, we don't have any plans to remove any trees right now.
Okay.
We weren't, the way they mapped it out, they said that we wouldn't need to when
Okay.
they came to propose the pool.
That's great.
Yeah.
It would be, it would be better. And if that changes, then you should let John DeLore know.
Yeah, if that changes, we would let you know, but as of now, he told me that he mapped it out. There was no trees in the way of the pool, so.
Okay.
It looks actually relatively flat. And you're going to have all the soil and erosion control measures in place.
Yes, said he would use a silt fence to prevent any.
So this is, the second time we're seeing this. Thank you for sending the pictures. That was helpful. And the measurements to the wetland from the pool and the pool house are also helpful. Does anybody else have any questions for the applicant or concerns about this application?
The only question I have is on the site plan with the existing house, is it showing the overhang that we see in the pictures?
So the house plan right now, there is a little pavilion type covering over the grill. Is that what you're referencing?
Yeah, it's some kind of a roof overhang with posts. I just don't know if it's being shown on the site plan.
Yeah, so that was added by the previous owners and had previously gone through the wetlands for a little overhang covering that had a grill in there.
And that's, but that's shown on the site plan, John?
Yes.
That area that looks like it's got lines and it's like a deck?
It's like a little, well, that's a hip roof, which you're looking at.
Okay.
There's 4 hips, so.
Okay.
Got it. So when you're looking out the back of the house, the pool house will be to the right of that overhang.
Yes.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Well, I'm okay with the plan because the backyard's pretty flat. It doesn't look like any fills coming in to elevate anything.
It does, Joe,
Yep.
at the tree line, it does slope off, but not until it gets into the tree line.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm sure there'll be a silt fence at the top of the slope.
Yeah, I'll condition the permit on that.
Yep.
Yeah, that would be good. Okay, any other comments or questions for the applicant?
Nope.
I'm
All
good.
right. Does anybody want to make a motion about application 21-25?
I'll make a motion that application 21-25 be approved as submitted.
I'll
I'll
second it.
second that.
Okay.
Right, any discussion? I guess the only discussion is just to make sure, as we clarified with John, that we definitely get the soil and erosion control measures in there. And
Yes.
Also, I'm going to make another condition on that too, that based on the testimony, there'll be no trees removed. And
Okay.
if there are to be, they would put an application in your agency for review.
Okay.
Absolutely.
we don't want to get into any more tree trouble in
No, please.
Please.
yeah, we're going to try not to do that. So yes, if so, that would, there are two conditions on this motion: that soil and erosion control measures are in place, and that no trees are to come down, and unless we are, unless they come back to us.
Mhm.
All right, all in favor of this motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Great. Oh, hey, Bob. And great. So it passes. Thank you, Miss Matton.
Yeah,
Liz.
thank you.
And good luck.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right. Onward. Our next application is 21-27, which is 77 Joshua Trail. And we have, and this is for receipt. So the next many applications are for receipt only. So we'll hear them tonight, ask questions, and vote on them next time. So do we have someone?
No, this party couldn't make it tonight.
Okay.
That's not good.
They had to attend a wake, and
Oh, that's not good.
yeah, I talked about it with John, so.
Okay. I am pulling up, let's see, I've got the application. Well, John, did you want to briefly
Yeah.
say anything about
Yeah,
this?
the applicant wants to remove, it looks like 13 trees total. One or two of them are actually in the wetland. All the rest of them are fairly close to the delineated wetland. Some may be as much as 25 or 30 feet away, but most of them are very, very close, as you can see.
Right.
Um,
And these are beach? Was that my,
Yeah, some of them are beach. They're not all beach. And one of the things I would suggest to the agency is that I think a report is necessary from an arborist or someone who professionally can assess the damage of the trees and which ones actually need to be removed and why, and how it's going to be done.
Did an arborist take them down, or did he take them down?
No, I didn't take them down yet.
Oh, they're not yet. Oh, okay.
No, this is one of the good guys.
Okay, all right, good.
So they're doing their due diligence, but there was I looked at the application today. I didn't see a report from anybody saying. I think the homeowner ought to, probably would benefit him to get a report for the agency to review.
Have you talked to him about that, John? It doesn't sound
Yes.
like, oh, you have. Okay, good.
Yeah.
And what does the homeowner say?
I got this, what you're looking at now as a response. And I thought perhaps he would get a report from
Okay,
somebody.
so you haven't talked to him about a report yet?
No,
Okay,
not since I was out there and walked the property with him.
yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. I think the other thing that the agency would probably benefit from if he, could take some photographs of the area that he wants to have the trees removed. So I think a brief report and some photographs would benefit the agency tremendously.
Okay.
I don't think it's egregious. I don't think anything he's doing is egregious, but I think, we got to keep an eye on what's going on.
Yeah, and those are pretty close to the wetland, so, or in the wetland.
I'd like to make a motion that we continue the opening of application 21-27 until the applicant is with us.
I'll second that.
Well, okay, but this, so we can discuss, that's fine, but I just want to make, but does that mean we're not receiving it tonight? We're going to push off receiving it until next week, until next month?
Yes,
Okay, John,
without the opportunity to ask detailed questions
okay,
as to why these trees got to come down. Yes.
Yeah, you can do that.
Yes.
okay, that's fine with me, as long as we're okay doing that, then that would be great.
Mhm.
I mean,
That'll give John time to talk to him about getting an arborist and
Yeah.
okay,
the report and all that sort of.
Follow up on
yeah,
that.
fair enough. Yeah, that definitely, that's a lot of trees, and I don't know, it didn't seem like there's any size information or anything. Okay, all in favor of the motion to continue this and get more information from the applicant next month?
Aye.
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 Okay, wow, there we go, moving. All right.
Okay, let me just get a minute to get some people on board here.
Okay, well, for agency members, if you have your applications on hand, we're moving to 21-29.
Yep.
46B Beach Avenue. And this is in response to a violation, my understanding.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay, I've been on Zoom a number of times, but never on this webinar version, so it's a little confusing. Anyway, Jim Preddy, Criscolo Engineering, 420 East Main Street, Branford, representing Bernard Lazier, the owner of the property. Bernard had bought this property a little over a year ago. It had been basically abandoned for a number of years, I think 7 or so years. So the place had become very overgrown. He was cleaning up some stuff and he cut a few damaged trees that were being choked out by vines. And some of them were a little close to the wetlands, and so here we are. The other thing that he was doing is that there was debris piles, basically some cut stone, some gutters, pieces of pipe, some broken tree pieces that had been basically grown over. You almost couldn't see them. And he took that stuff out, and so there's a scar left over when that stuff gets removed. So that was the reseeding part of what he needs to do is those areas plus where the stumps got removed. If you want to put the plan on the screen, or if I can, I guess I can. So we didn't do a complete survey here. We just did, what we needed to do for this. The house is sort of in the middle of the site. It's if you can see where the 5 little trees are along the eastern property line, it's kind of up. It's east to west. It's in the middle, and it's about even with those 5 little trees there. And obviously the view is to the south. So he took some of these trees that were being choked. They were smaller trees being choked out by vines, and a couple of them were damaged by one of the storms. Incidentally, he told me that he thinks that those trees were planted by the previous owner, so they weren't very old trees. But you can see the two debris areas. The one on the eastern side kind of stopped right at the wetland edge there, and then the one behind the barn, close to the other one was the eastern edge. The other one behind the barn, the pile was we didn't have this flag till after, but there's a debris area there, and that was another pile that was removed. When Mr. Lazia got the call, he called me right away. I had Matt Davison go out and flag this wetland. But again, he had already removed the debris, so there was, the space you could see where the stuff would come down. At the northern end of the site, there's a number of trees that he did not take down, but he spent quite a bit of time and money on some laborers and a lift, and they went in there and cut and pulled vines off all these trees. Again, the place was abandoned for so long that the vines were kind of trying to take over everything. But up there, all he did was, clean off the trees to save them all. So at this point, he stopped doing anything once he spoke to John. He did put straw wattles in at the edge of the wetland where the flags were. He did put that in after the flagging happened, but he hasn't done anything else. The little area to the western edge, he did buy some winterberry just to make sure that he could get them, but he hasn't planted them yet because we're kind of waiting for permission for that. But the rest of, all that area there, with the exception of where he wants to put in a vegetable garden in the spring, the rest of it would just be seeded with lawn for now. Unless there's something specific that is asked by you guys. The other thing is that along the eastern edge of the property, behind the neighboring properties on Beach Avenue, he planted, I think, about 30 different trees, saplings over there, some pines and different things to provide him and them some privacy. But that's where we stand. We got a phone call from John, and we kind of jumped right on it. But we missed the last meeting.
Okay. Well, are there so?
I guess my question is, what criteria did he use to save some trees and not save the other trees?
The ones that didn't look like they were being strangled by the vines, and he was able to get the vines off of more on the northern side. The ones the south side, I don't know if there was other factors there because there's more open, because there's all that wetland area to the south, and maybe they get beat on a little more from the wind. I'm not sure because they're on the south side of the house. But there were some that were broken and some that were just looking like they weren't going to make it anyway. So he did take them down. But there are the ones that were healthy, you can see on the map that we marked that are still there. Again, he just cleaned them up and left them. Quite honestly, the view is to the south from the house. So, the desire would be to not have to put anything major back there. Because the house sits up a little higher than this area. So, the view is really to the south. But you could see on the bottom picture there, that was where that pile was. And the top picture is the pile from the other, that's on the top picture is the eastern side and the bottom picture is the western side.
And those pink flags that you can see in the pictures, those are the wetland flags. So that is the wetland boundary, and I see the Phragmites there. So that is,
yes,
that is not even regulated activity. You're just right up or into the wetland.
Yeah, agreed. Like I said, when he pulled that pile of junk out of there, it left what I'll call a scar, but it left an area that was disturbed. And then once he got the call, we got flagged and didn't realize till after that he was in it a little bit.
Right. But it sounds like, so obviously all of the activity took place in the regulated activity area because you're
That's
within
correct.
100 feet. Right.
Yeah.
So I guess there are, a number of considerations. Generally, we don't encourage lawn up to wetland edges. I could see, and I know this area has, it looks challenging given that there's a significant amount of wetland in that area. But there are other options rather than just grass, especially given that you are right up on the wetland boundary. But what do other well, I guess before we so your client wants to seed the area, put in a vegetable garden, and is there anything else?
And well, he'd be willing, like, again, he bought some winterberry to plant in that area that encroached into the wetland, but didn't put them in. He just wanted to make sure he had them.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's, additional plantings, shrub type plantings that the commission would like to see there or suggest, he's more than willing to do that. But again, we stopped until we came before you guys.
Okay.
Hey, Jim, it's Bob. I'm sorry I don't have my camera at this office, Zidane, but I just want to make sure, I got to take a step back, and I apologize to everybody, but so I'm looking at Google's maps, and this is a big interior lot off of Beach Avenue, and it backs up to Pleasant. Is that a correct understanding?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. All right. And then I guess my other concern, I'm obviously not speaking for the other, I guess maybe I don't have their capabilities because I'm getting a little confused because I don't know where, normally we'd see a plan that would say, okay, here's the wetland boundary and this is exactly what we want to do to kind of remediate the issue or problem, or this is how we want to proceed. So I don't know if I'm jumping ahead, but is that something you guys can do for us, or even Gil, is that something that would be right to ask for at this time, or do we wait until next month, or how do
No,
we
I think
proceed?
that's perfect, Bob. I mean, that's why I was trying to clarify from the applicant that, verbally we're hearing what they want to do, but normally in these conditions, we ask for a restoration plan or something. That
And
something
just
concrete that we can look at, because if we have to vote on this, we need more than just, our conversation. We need some document that we can say, yes, you're going to put X, Y, and Z here, or you're not going to put it there. And it should be spelled out. So normally we ask for, particularly with violations, because that means you've got into the wetland area without approval, or, some kind of plan to fix it to the extent that that's possible.
John, what were you gonna say? Are you gonna say something? You're on
Yeah.
You're
mute.
muted.
You're muted.
I did that deliberately.
Yeah.
No, I agree with Bob. I mean, and part of my notes is that my suggestion would be a planting plan to restore. So I think that's about really the only thing. I think the application is very credible. I thought he did a really good job with it. Went out and did what he was supposed to do. He did stop. He hasn't done anything other than the straw waddies.
So I think we're saying just seeding it is not going to be enough. Is that what we're saying? That's what we're saying, right?
Yeah, I think because it's right at the wetland boundary, and I think we want to be a little more thoughtful about what goes in there
Sure.
than just lawn.
And Jim,
Sure.
I don't want to make you think it's more than it should be either, but maybe if I could just suggest you get with John for a period, either on the phone or whatever, and walk through it with him, because I'm sure John will be a wealth of knowledge, and he'll give you a little bit of guidance as to, what might make some sense and what might not. And we can't exactly tell you what to do,
Right.
is my understanding of how this committee works. So, my experience is John is really reasonable and the committee is really reasonable, but I think you got to come back with some kind of plan that hopefully, doesn't take too much time and isn't too laborious, but something that we can say, okay, here's the boundary, here's the uplands, here's how you want to remediate it, and it looks great to us. So go ahead. That's what we're looking for.
No, I understand. I agree. My thought as you guys were speaking, that I would call our wetland scientist and have him suggest something, and we'll run it by John before we resubmit it.
That would be great. So is that something you think you can have for next month? Because we can receive the application tonight. If you want to then, I guess we can talk about it.
Oh yeah. We'll Matt usually responds really quickly for me, so I could probably within the next 2 weeks I could have the map back to John.
Okay. And, do you guys, commission members, would we feel comfortable receiving it tonight, knowing that we're going to get a more detailed plan? We've heard a verbal plan, but getting a more concrete plan, a written plan for next meeting.
I'm comfortable with that.
I'm comfortable.
Okay. All right. Does someone want to make a motion to that effect?
I move we receive application 2127 46B Beach Avenue. Expect to talk about it next month.
2129.
2129.
Okay. Sorry.
I second it.
Got a second? All right. Any discussion, further discussion?
John, does he have a deadline when he has to get that to you for the next month meeting? So it gets, you're on mute. You're on mute.
He's got the application in. So
Okay.
it's been received. He's got, when he has an opportunity to get it in, as long as I'll get it to the agency before the meeting, but it'll
Yep.
be available at the meeting so you can all discuss it.
Okay, thank you.
All right. All in
All right.
favor of this motion? Say aye. We have to vote.
Bye.
Aye.
Okay, great. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Ready, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we have moved on to application 21-30 Wildwood Drive. This is a proposal for a 3-lot subdivision. Again, receipt only tonight.
Now, this is an application, correct?
Yes, this.
Not a referral. It's an
it's
actual
not a
application.
referral. It's an application.
Okay.
Yep, it's a full-fledged, well, relatively full-fledged application with plans, etc. So,
Okay.
right, John? That was my read of this. It's very clearly.
Well, that's what he submitted. Part of this is, obviously, it's a referral to the Planning and Zoning Commission for the subdivision, by statute. You have to refer the
Right.
subdivision. There's a lot of information here. I was thinking that this probably would be received, as an application tonight, kind of discussed and then heard on the November 1st meeting.
Okay, but so I guess, so that is a good point though. Is it an application to us, or is it just a referral? There's a lot of wetland there. So
Yeah,
it
there's
seemed
a-
like
Well,
one of the
Our
ones
regulations say that we need an application.
yeah, so it
That
seems like
does.
that This is the application.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, it does have a number, so I'm gonna guess it is an application.
yeah, because our referrals tend not to have numbers. Okay, so application
2130.
2130.
Are they here? Are they here to talk about it? Yes, I see Mr.
Yes.
Delaney.
Hi.
Hello.
In the category, James Galligan is the engineer in charge of the project, if he can be invited in as well.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We will allow Mr. Galligan.
Anybody else that I need to add in for your application?
Yes, Nick
think,
McClay.
Nope, I'm here under Nafis and Young. Greg Biancotti. Oh, he's here.
And Nick McClay.
I'm here under Nafis and Young.
Okay.
All right. Well, so looks like you have a whole team. Does someone want to start out by talking about the project and what you?
Sure. Yeah, if we could just bring up, maybe sheet number 1 or 2. Good evening. My name is Jim Galligan. I'm a registered professional engineer licensed in the state of Connecticut. I'm from Nafis and Young. We're professional engineers located at 1355 Middletown Avenue in Northford. The application in front of you is for a 3-lot subdivision. It's on approximately 10.7 acres. The actual address is on Wildwood Road, but if we get into the application itself, you'll see that we're not accessing the parcel from Wildwood Road. Maybe if we go to sheet 2, you can see at the top of the page there, that is Sheep's Pasture Road, and down on the lower right is Wildwood Road, and in the lower right there is also a wetlands that separates the parcel from Wildwood Road. So we chose not to access the site from Wildwood Road, but from the top part of the page, or the north end of the site, from Sheep Pasture Road. If you look at the parcel, you can see that there's a peninsula or a knoll in the middle of this parcel that basically divides the wetlands. There's a wetland pocket to the east or the right as you're looking at the diagram. There's also a second one to the left or the west, and there's an upland area that separates those two. The upland area in the middle of that, the middle of the parcel, is the area we propose to use as the subdivision. If you look at sheet 3, you can see that there are 3 lots. The first lot number 1 is at the top of the page. It has its access directly from Sheep Pasture Road. Lots 2 and 3 are located south of lot 1, and they're accessed by a common driveway that runs along the edge of the buffer area or the upland review area. We're proposing to use a gravel driveway, a non-paved driveway. I would emphasize that this application has 0 fill in the wetlands. We nixed the plan, if you will, to come in from Wildwood Drive early, because we felt that this plan here was a reasonable and prudent alternative, had no fill in the wetlands, and had no disturbance in the wetlands. So the plan is to take this knoll that is across the middle of this parcel and kind of shave the top of it off, if you will, and flatten out the site and create 3 level lots. Redistribute the material on site to be able to create 3 level lots. The high point on lot number 1, the northerlymost lot, the high point on that is about elevation 55. The ground grade where the house on lot number 1 is about elevation 52. We're proposing a first floor elevation of around 52. The first floor elevation on lot 2 is elevation of 48. The area where the house is located, the ground grade is elevation 50. So you can see we're trying to minimize, we're trying not to maximize earth movement here. We're trying to get the property to grade similar to the existing conditions. Lot 3 in the back, the first floor elevation is 48, and the ground grade around there is proposed to be 46, and the existing ground is elevation 40. On the east side of the driveway, the common driveway, we're proposing to put in a landscaped buffer area with vegetation, some native vegetation, some berry-bearing vegetation to buffer the driveway between the driveway and the wetlands to the east of the parcel. I think it's important to note that as we graded the driveway that comes through to lots 2 and 3, we tried to keep the driveway within 1.5, and no more than 2 feet change of grade from the existing condition to the proposed driveway condition. And there are some areas where it's a little more because of the nature of slope of driveways compared to the nature of slope of native ground. The only place where that is different is on lot 3. If you look just to the right of the driveway on lot 3, you can see there's a little drumlin there, and that little drumlin, that little high spot there, that's going to get knocked down, but that is neither in the buffer area nor in the wetlands area. The west side of the parcel, what we're proposing to do is to create a sloped embankment that will separate the property proper, the yards, if you will, from the wetlands buffer area or the upland review area. Again, we're looking to try and do some significant plantings in that area, so that to support wildlife. The grading change in that area is in some places as much as 8 feet, but in most areas it's 3 to 4 feet. We also have the standard soil and erosion control measures, siltation fence. If you look at the soil erosion plan, which I think is sheet 5 or 6, I guess it's sheet 6, you can see that we have the parcel separated from the buffer area with silt fencing around the area. We've identified the stockpile areas that to be used, and that they are supposed to be enclosed in silt fencing. We have anti-track and apron for lot number 1, and we also have a second anti-track and apron for lots 2 and 3. And to be quite honest, I think that's pretty much a general description of the project. Our goal tonight, quite frankly, is to try and introduce the project to you and get some input back from you as to what you may like or dislike, so we could prepare that for you for next month's meeting. Would you like me to repeat that?
So I have
Go
a
ahead.
quick question. I was just pulling up the natural diversity database maps, and do you know if you're in an area kind of close to some of these, and I'm just looking and trying to figure out if you're in one of them. Did you check that?
We did not.
Oh, I was
I'm
gonna say,
sorry,
I did
go
not.
ahead.
When I looked, it did not look as though the natural diversity database went over our lot. I do admit it was close, but I couldn't get it to quite line up and say it was in the area. If it is, it's, trimming just the edges, or at least according to the SCROG's GIS database.
We can recheck it. We'd be glad to recheck it.
Yeah, I think it would be good to recheck that, because
Sure.
I'm looking at the map and there's a bunch kind of in that general area. And then, yes, it looks like you may be close to, and it would be good to know if that's.
Sure. Now, is that the COG database you're using?
I just quickly, while we were talking, yes, it was the Yukon Clear. I just was looking at
Yep.
that.
Okay. I just want to make sure we look at the same one. That's all.
Yeah, well, I think I'm not super thrilled with the map I'm looking at, so I might try and dig up another one, but it would be helpful, obviously. I mean, I would recommend that you guys do that.
Sure. Be glad to.
So Jim, is there a number associated with this lot? Like, is it 55? Is it 45? Is there
I don't believe there is, but I'll check. Nick, do you know if there is?
By the SCR-COG's GIS, it's just listed purely as Wildwood Ave. Or road, sorry.
Wildwood, okay.
So Bob, if you look at a GIS map, there's a sheep pasture road, and it's just to the northeast of that.
Yeah, I'm looking on Google Maps and I'm trying to figure out, but it has it abuts Wildwood Ave as well.
It does front Wildwood, where there's a house up on the road, but there's a road on the GIS on Google Maps called Sheep Pasture Road, which appears to border it on the southwest.
Southwest, okay. Just trying to get a good idea where it is. So, and there looks like to be is it a heavily treed lot or not?
Yes.
There's quite a bit of open spaces, but it's also on the, I'm going to call it the southern area. There's a fairly significant amount of vegetation. Most of the vegetation is brush size, but there's some mature trees on this property.
The property has been logged, I would say, from the last owners, what they said is 3 times in the last about 25, 30 years.
Okay. One last question, and then I'll turn it back to everybody else. But when Jim, you said you're going to excavate to flatten out the lot a little bit. It doesn't seem like there's a ton of grade there anyways, but are you going to be excavating within the you said nothing in the wetlands, but are you planning on doing anything? I would imagine you are in the uplands, right? In the restricted area, or not?
Yes, we're encroaching in some of the restricted area in that first 10 feet, but nothing that's less than 40 feet from the wetlands line.
Okay, thank you. That's kind of what I was looking for. All right, great.
I think what's important to get out of this, though, is from 40 to 50 feet is what the landscape designer is going to be considering restorative plantings. So it's all going to be replanted with native wetland species.
Native upland species. No sense in putting wetlands in the upland area.
Right.
So we're eager to gain as much feedback from you folks as possible, because obviously it's just an introduction tonight.
Yep. And there's going to be real easy question. The shared driveway off of Wildwood?
Yeah, no, the shared driveway will be off of Sheep Pasture. It'll cross over lot 2 in favor of lot 3.
And what's the acreage for each proposed lot?
Sure. Let me just back up to the right page here. I don't mean to be a dinosaur, but I still work off of paper. So, lot 1 is going to be a little more than 2 acres. Lot 2 is going to be about 5.5 acres, and lot 3 is going to be 3.1 acres. And they'll all be what they consider frontage lots, because they all have frontage on either Sheep Pasture Road or Wildwood Road.
Does anybody need me to bring it up on a GIS? Because I have it on the GIS.
Sure, that'd be great. I have a question. Just trying to go back to this restorative planting. This is on the common driveway.
Actually, on both sides of the parcel, there's an area where there's maybe a foot or a foot and a half change in grade between the driveway and the area next to it. And so we're going to do some restorative planting there, but more of the restorative plantings are going to be on the west side where there's actually a sloped area proposed.
But that is within the regulated activity, right?
That's right. It's within that. That's why we're here in front of you. Yeah, it's within that 10 foot between 40 foot and 50 foot buffer area of the wetlands, right?
Okay. Well, it'd be interesting to see. I know, you don't necessarily want to put wetland plants in. Maybe.
No, he was corrected. He's going to put upland plants in there.
Well, I was going to say, that's great, but you're still, well, it would be great to see when you have it. It could be on your, it probably is, you had a lot of material. It'd be great to see the species list, which if it's already up there, then I'm happy to wade through that for next time. Is that going to be maintained? Like, what's the maintenance? This is, these are going to be sold as individual lots, but you're going to have this buffer area that's planted. So, all else being equal, it would be great if it kind of maintained itself, but at least initially, that's not going to be the case. It's going to be open, disturbed area that is going to be susceptible to, a lot of invasive species colonizing that. So is there a plan to monitor that, or I don't know what you guys are thinking with respect to.
I'll tell you what, we'll put together a monitoring plan for you. That's exactly the type of information we're hoping you're going to say to us tonight.
So I guess I'm definitely cool with receiving the application tonight, and I would definitely highly urge that a referral of this plan be sent to DEEP for a NDDB commentary.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that. And is it an actual drumlin that is there? Because they can often have special habitats.
Yeah, I call it a drumlin because it's it's a knoll in all four directions, northeast, south, and west.
Mm-hmm.
It's a high point.
Yeah.
I call a ridge line one that's high in 3 directions, and a drumlin is high in 4 directions. Is it a physical drumlin? Probably not.
And what's wrong with the drumlin as it is?
Well, it's just that it's right in the middle of the yard, but it's just a mound.
Yep.
Right now.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think getting exactly if any of this property is within an NDDB area would be super helpful. The more information on this and a monitoring plan. Are there any other comments from the agency members? I guess I have one other question. Are there looking at the Google Earth map? It looks like there is some open space, but clearly there's going to be trees taken down. Is that the case?
Well, the only areas where there's going to be tree removal is within the silt fencing line. It will either be driveway or yard space. The wetland areas to the east and west are going to remain untouched.
Okay.
And
all right. Well, if nobody has any other questions or comments,
I will move that we receive application 21-30 Wildwood Drive 3-lot subdivision with a request to have a referral sent to DEEP, and that's my motion.
Blustein Common Chow Chow.
Okay. I think someone just seconded that in the background.
Did
I
someone
heard chow chow.
There's one other one
I second it.
downstairs, one of
All
those.
right. All right.
The chow chow was from my house.
Ah,
Any other discussion?
Julia?
All right, all in favor of receiving this application and seeing an NDD referral, a deep referral for next month? Say aye, raise your
Aye.
hand.
Aye.
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 All right, application received, and thank you, and we'll look forward to hearing more about this in November.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the last application to receive tonight is application 21-31, 35 Cottage Road. We have another development happening, and presumably, hopefully, the applicant or engineer will speak to us about it.
Okay, well, I can tell you that Mike Ott is trying to get here as soon as he can. He had a conflict with Marjorie Shansky in Guilford. There was an appeal that they had to attend. So there's a conflict there. Mike is, I think, should be here momentarily. Oh, there he is. He just made it.
Magic. You
Good
just
job, Mike.
conjured him into existence.
Thank you.
Is it, I apologize for being late. Am I late or is it just the right?
You are exactly
Right
on
on
time.
time.
Oh, okay.
I have two hands raised and I don't know what they were for that raised just as we were finishing the other matter.
Okay. I can't see anybody except who all is here in the panelists. So, well, are they still there or?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Well, they can come back. We'll be here.
Richard Gentile has to unmute.
Okay. But we have Mike. Are you going to be speaking for the applicant?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you go ahead and share your plan or share your vision for this property?
Okay. So for the record, I'm Mike Ott. I'm a licensed professional engineer and land surveyor with Summerhill Civil Engineers and Land Surveyors in Madison with an office on Wall Street. So I am here and I'm looking to see who's in attendance. I'm here on behalf of 35 Cottage LLC. Richard Gentile from the applicant is with us. Abigail Adams, landscape architect for the project, is with us. And I believe that Eric Davison from Davis Environmental is also with us tonight. So we understand that you're just receiving the application this evening. And John had explained, John DeLora had explained to me that you might want a brief presentation. Is that correct?
Yes, I think.
Okay, so I'll make it really brief, and you can tell me you can ask us questions if you'd like, and make it longer. It's your choice. But could I share my screen?
Yeah, I can let me see if I can.
Okay.
Should be able to now.
Okay, thanks.
There's nobody else in attendance that I'm supposed to make a panelist for this, right? There's people that don't have last names, so I'm not sure.
So if you can see, we have Abigail Adams who may speak and Eric who may speak.
Richard Gentile's here. There's a Mike that's not anybody from Atlas, right?
I'm not sure who that is. As long as Abigail Adams and Eric Davison can speak, that would be great.
Perfect. Thank you.
That's fine.
Thanks, Maria. Okay, I'm trying to share my screen, but I'm getting some weird dialog boxes that I've never seen before. Yeah, oh, wait a minute. It looks like it's going to work. Okay, how's that?
Yep.
Okay, so this is, the site is at the intersection of Cottage Road and Mill Road. I'm sure you guys all know where this is. This is right on the corner where the old granite marker is. You've probably all seen it. There's that tall granite stone right at the intersection. It's been there as long as I've been in Madison. It's got different places in the world, I think, actually on it, and the number of miles, if I remember right, to each place. Does the site ring a bell with all you guys? It has a pond on it.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, this property isn't there. Wasn't there a development on this?
We did the next door property.
The next door property.
Right. It was also Mr. Gentile's. Yes.
Yes. Okay. So yeah.
So,
Exactly where the-
Good memory, Dave.
yeah. So right next door, which is 41 Cottage Road, and that's Hammond Apartments, I think it was called. So that's all constructed. So on this site, there are, let me go to the existing conditions plan. I don't know how well this is going to show, but so here's Mill Road at the top of the sheet, and here's Cottage Road. And if you went from Cottage Road and you took a left down Mill Road, you'd go to Route 1 and you'd be looking at diagonally across the street from the entrance to Hammonasset.
Close.
And Cottage Road, if you've driven it, runs behind like Duncan, comes up here. So there are two buildings on the site. One here, if you can see my cursor, and another one. The latest use of the site, I think for 30 years plus, was a business was run out of these two buildings. The husband and wife, I believe, owned several McDonald's, including the ones I think on the turnpike, both north and south. So they ran that business out of these two buildings. I'm sure at one time this building was a residence. This looks like an older home to me. This is a little bit newer. It's got a garage below and offices above. And here's the pond. And at the very bottom of the sheet is the apartment project, Hammonasset Apartments, that we were talking about. Residential properties to the north, single family homes to the north. So the proposal is to demolish, remove these buildings. There's no pavement on the site. There's a pretty large, it might be hard to see here, but I'm tracing it. There's a pretty large stone surfaced parking area and driveway. There's no pavement, bituminous concrete on the site at all. So the proposal is to remove the two buildings and the decks and the stairs that go with them, and to construct a multifamily, a single building, a multifamily building that would provide 18 one-bedroom apartments. And that's the building, of course, is this light gray shaded area. The parking for the building would all be in front of it. The driveway access would be essentially pretty close to where the current driveway goes into the current parking area. Same thing on Cottage Road. So these two driveway entrances are pretty close to where the driveway entrances are now. So the improvements on the site, just kind of an overall high level view, the improvements on the site are the building, the parking area out front and its driveway, sidewalks all along the parking area and the front of the building, stormwater management facilities beneath the parking, septic tanks and effluent pump stations here, and leaching field for the septic systems here. There's lighting associated with the parking area. There's signage, accessible reserved parking space signage in the parking area, but that's really it for the hard site improvements, not the landscape part, which Abigail will speak about. And then we also propose to construct a stormwater wetland, and that's this hatched area. It probably looks dotted, I'm sure, on the screen all the way around this edge of the pond. So that's what this kind of dotted area is. So a quick overview, that's the main improvements on the site. The building, the parking area, and the two driveways, sidewalks, lighting, stormwater management facilities beneath the parking lot, septic tanks and pump chambers here, septic system up here in the north corner of the site. And then there's an extensive landscaping plan, which includes the plantings associated with the stormwater wetland. I'll describe the stormwater system very quickly, and then Eric Davison and Abigail can explain the kind of the integrated plan for what vegetation is going to be removed on the site, naturalizing the area around the pond. The area around the pond today is a maintained lawn, literally right down to the edge of the pond. So Eric and Abigail will talk about how we're going to naturalize that and remove some of it invasive vegetation also on the site. So stormwater, really quick in general, there is a storm drainage system at the intersection of Cottage Road and Mill Road. We traced it out and had it surveyed out, and it's shown on the surveys that we submit. It discharges, if you were coming out of Hammonasset Beach State Park, in the northeast quadrant of the intersection of Route 1 and the connector, there is a tidal wetland. There's a tidal wetland at the northwest quadrant also, but this storm drainage system here runs westerly down the other portion of Cottage Road towards the connector, and then southerly and discharges to that tidal wetland ultimately. So our stormwater management plan is to collect all of the stormwater runoff and the sidewalks into a single catch basin. From that catch basin, stormwater will go to a flow diversion structure where the water quality flow, which generates the water quality volume as specified in the Connecticut Stormwater Quality Manual, will be directed through a pipe system. Will be directed to a hydrodynamic separator structure, and then through a pipe system to the constructed stormwater wetland fringe at the edge of the pond. The stormwater wetland fringe is separated from the pond by a very low berm, only about 1 foot to 18 inches high, an earthen berm planted. So essentially, the water quality volume, the very frequent shallow depth rainfall events will get treated by going through the hydrodynamic separator structure and then to the constructed stormwater wetland. For less frequent, greater depth rainfall events, stormwater will be directed into a subsurface infiltration system below the parking area. And that system has an outlet control structure on it that controls the rate of flow out of the system. And it will be connected to the municipal storm drainage system in Cottage and Mill Road. So that's a real basic explanation of the stormwater management system. Oh, I should say also the roof water from the building, because the roof construction type and the materials, the roofing material, the shingles, will be typical residential type construction, is considered clean by the Connecticut DEP, and it will be discharged directly to the stormwater wetland rather than having it directed through the hydrodynamic separator first. So that's a quick overview of the site, minus the landscaping and the overall restoration and naturalization of the site, and the stormwater system. Any questions on that at this point, or should I just turn it right over to Abigail, the landscape architect, and Eric, the professional wetland scientist and soil scientist?
I have a question about the septic.
Yes.
So you have 18, so there's 18 units with 1 bedroom. So are you, I'm assuming that the site can handle that many bedrooms, so 18 bedrooms, however much septic waste that is in your leaching field and your three tanks?
Yes. So I was going to make a joke and say, no, I didn't think of that, but yes, it can. There are 2. The first 2 tanks are very large septic tanks. So there's a design flow, a daily wastewater flow that's prescribed by the Connecticut Public Health Code. So these 2 tanks are sized to handle that daily flow, just like your home is. Every home, depending on the number of bedrooms, has a daily wastewater flow assigned to it under the Public Health Code. So a 3-bedroom house, for instance, the design daily wastewater flow is 1,000 gallons per day. So this is calculated in a much different manner, and the design, the daily wastewater design flow is 5,100 gallons per day, I believe. I'd have to look at it. It's in this drawing set and going by memory, but it's something like that. So that drives these 2 tank sizes, the first 2 tanks. So we have 2 septic tanks in series. This last tank is a wastewater effluent pump chamber. So it is, the solids remain in these first two tanks. The effluent liquid spills over into this pump chamber, and this inside the pump chamber, there's a submerged wastewater pump that pumps it up through this polyethylene line to the leaching fields. There's about an 8-foot difference in elevation from the tank to from the pump chamber to the highest leaching field. And these leaching fields are sized in accordance with the requirements of the state of Connecticut Public Health Code to handle that number of bedrooms and that daily wastewater flow for typical domestic wastewater, residential wastewater. So this whole wastewater system has to be reviewed by the town's health department, by Madison's health department. And then because the daily flow is greater than 2,000 gallons per day, it has to be sent up to the State Department of Public Health. Because this is one system, the daily flow greater than 2,000, equal to or greater than 2,000 gallons per day, the State Department of Public Health also has to review and approve this system.
Okay.
This is in line, by the way, let me zoom out a little bit. This blue dashed line I did not explain is 100-foot upland review area line away from the wetland boundary.
Mike, I have a question. Are they anticipating, I would think they would be, like washing machines and dishwashers in each unit?
Yes, just like.
And does the code, does the code on all the calculations make a difference and take that into account when they look at the effluents going up into the leaching fields or not?
No, Bob, what the state public health code does and has always done is much longer than I've been working is bases the sizing and the design of systems that are under the regulatory authority of the state public health code, only based on the number of bedrooms, and that there's an assumption that there are 2 people per bedroom, and that the daily weight per capita, the daily wastewater flow is 75 gallons per bedroom.
So they don't really take into account whether there's washing machines in each unit and dishwashers in each unit?
Not at all. Just like your house, and I just misspoke. Okay. Look at myself. The assumption is that it's 75 gallons per capita, meaning per person, and that there's 2 people in a bedroom. So each bedroom is 150, 75 times 2 gallons per day. That's how the wastewater flow, the design daily wastewater flow is computed. That's true of all your homes also. No, the public health code does not, it assumes that people in a residential use, that people have washing machines and dishwashers, and there's provisions for large bathtubs for increasing septic system sizes for very large tubs greater than 100 gallons. There's provisions for increasing septic system sizes if you have garbage grinders in your kitchen. But the basic design flow is based solely on bedrooms. That's true of your house, and it's true of this big apartment building.
Thank you.
Yep. So I tell me if I'm giving you too much information at this early stage. Sorry.
No. I mean, if we receive it tonight, then I mean, we don't want to. It'd be good to get the information. So you're looking at an 8-foot, looks like uphill mostly to the leaching field. Is that right?
Say that again. A fill? Did you say?
Uphill. Are you going from the tanks? Your line that goes from the effluent up to the leaching field. You said it's about an 8-foot difference. Is that so? You're pushing the wastewater up to the leaching fields, right?
Right. Yep.
And I'm assuming that there is a backup power or something in case the power goes out. But I don't know how that pump works, because that would be bad, probably, if it backed up, or it'd be gross.
Yeah, so I can explain that to you. So the 8-foot elevation difference is from the outlet of this pump chamber, which is below the ground, to this highest leaching field. This whole pump chamber is way lower than the floor of this building. So the way these things work, and this is true at a single family home too, if any of you have pump station at your home, I was going to say it's fairly common. It's not, maybe that's not a good way to describe it, but it is done where there are residential pump stations. I can think of a couple on Middle Beach Road that I've done over the years. So what happens is the public health code requires that this effluent pump station be sized to have an emergency storage. It has an alarm system in it. It has a high level alarm that has to go back to the building. This is true of a house too. And there's an audible and visual alarm, and it tells you that something's wrong and the pump has not gone on, and the liquid level in the tank has reached too high a level. Well, above that alarm level, from the time that alarm goes on, above that alarm level, the health code requires that you have a 24 hours worth of storage. So you have a full day's worth of storage volume in this tank above the alarm level. So the presumption is that that gives the occupants of the building time enough to either get the power back on or have this pump chamber pumped and the effluent removed from it. There is this project backup power generator. It will be right here. I didn't mention it earlier, but it's right here on the east end of the building on this pad. But it is that backup power generation is not required by the public health code. The safety measure is the emergency, the 24-hour emergency storage volume in the tank.
Hey, Mike, do you know where this pond drains to? I'm looking at it and I can't really see where it's going to.
It doesn't. And actually, Eric Davison will explain, but it turns out the pond has no outlet. It was excavated. It's clear that it was created by excavation, and they intercepted the groundwater table. In the spring, the groundwater is high at roughly elevation 5, and that when you study the plans, you'll see that's reflected by the wetland, the watercourse boundary that was flagged around it. And in the drier parts of the year, as the groundwater goes down, the size of the pond, the surface area of the pond shrinks, of course. So it definitely has no outlet. It's fully contained on both this site and the adjacent number 41 Cottage Road site.
Do we have an elevation drawing of the building?
Yes, we submitted architectural drawing. I could find them and share it if you'd like, but we did submit them, Joe.
Okay, we can wait till next month.
Yep.
So sorry, Mike, I have one question about the stormwater wetland that you're proposing to build next to the pond.
Yep.
Is that going to be planted?
Oh yeah, and I should stop talking and let Abigail and Eric explain. But yes, absolutely. Yep.
And then maintained?
Oh yeah.
It would have to be I assume there would be maintenance to keep it functioning properly, since it's such an integral part of your stormwater plan.
Yes, and as you all probably know, it's very common for a wetland commission to, as a condition of approval, to require the monitoring of the construction of the stormwater wetland for some period and the maintenance.
Yes, I do know that, but I was wondering if you had included that, or if
Yeah,
required
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And Eric will talk about that. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Any
Well,
questions, or should I turn it over to those guys?
I guess that's fine.
Okay.
Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
Hi, my name is Eric Davison. I'm a registered soil scientist and a certified professional wetland scientist. Just wanted to walk you through the wetland conditions on the site and just give you an overview of the habitat types and some of the work that we did on the property. As Mike mentioned, the wetlands on the property are pretty simple and straightforward. It's just a pond. The pond's approximately 13,000 square feet in size, including the small portion of it that continues off-site. As Mike mentioned, the pond is in fact isolated. It has no outlet or inlet. It does not drain out to any other wetland systems. It is an old excavation that intercepted the groundwater and So in what is typical in a pond created in this glacial meltwater outwash sand and gravel material, the pond, once it's dug, intercepts the groundwater, and that level maintains in a pretty steady fashion. Based on our monitoring over the time period we've been looking at the site, it has about a 2-foot elevational fluctuation from low to high, obviously depending upon the wetness of the season, but it maintains at a pretty consistent level. It has a pretty steep drop off when you step into the pond from the shoreline. When it's fully flooded, there's a narrow flooded shoreline, but essentially it goes from upland to open water fairly abruptly. So there's not really any shoreline or what we call littoral vegetation around the perimeter of the pond. It's basically just lawn grasses out to open water. And the maximum depth of the pond is at least 5 feet, based on the work that we did, wading into the pond with chest waders. We got to about 5 feet of depth and it continued. So my best guess is it's approximately 8 feet in total depth in the center. Mike explained to you the drainage of the site. The southern portion of the site drains into the street catch basin system and outlets to a tidal wetland over near the Hammonasset connector. I think from a technical perspective, the site's in the drainage in that direction is in Tom's Creek watershed, although I think the connector cuts off the flow and carries it south right under Route 1, and it discharges into the marshes at just on the east side of the Hammonasset entrance road. The rest of the site drains directly into the pond just via surface flow. And as I said, it doesn't actually drain anywhere beyond that. The soil types on the site, the native soil types are Hinkley, which is a sandy outwash soil. But in this case, basically most of the site is a disturbed or modified Hinkley, which is what we call like a eudorthant soil, which is basically a man-made or manipulated soil over top of that native Hinkley sand and gravel. The northern portion of the site bordering the pond is wooded, and the southern portion is lawn. It's about a 60-40 split in terms of lawn bordering the pond as opposed to forest, give or take. Most of it, the southern end, obviously, as you can see from the site photos and air photo that's included in my report, is lawn right up to the pond edge, and it's frequently mowed. It's maintained as sort of an aesthetic pond. No real tall vegetation of any kind, no woody vegetation of any kind in the wetland buffer. The small wooded area to the north is a mix. I referred to it as forest in my report because it does have a closed canopy, but it's basically just a small narrow patch of forest between the lawn area and the developed residences to the north. Most of the vegetation in that area is invasive. The tree canopy is mostly black locust and tree of heaven, which are 2 invasive tree species. And then the shrub layer includes, quite a bit of Japanese knotweed and wineberry, which is another invasive bramble, along with multiflora rose. There is some native vegetation in that little forest patch. There's some red oak and some cherry and some spice bush and things like that. But most of that area is young pioneer vegetation and quite a bit of invasives. One of the things we did was to do some biological sampling of the pond to get an idea of what's actually using the pond and breeding in the pond. So we did some visual surveys early in the spring in April or so to look for egg masses, and then we followed up later in the summer to do some detailed pond sampling where we did we ran some seine netting through the pond to capture larvae and other aquatic species. The initial survey in the spring did reveal one sort of interesting find, which was a small population of spotted salamanders, which are a vernal pool indicator species. We had 24 egg masses in the pond, and we speculated that their upland terrestrial habitat, which is where they spend most of the season outside of the breeding season, they're in terrestrial forests. So my best speculation is that those animals migrated from the west across Mill Road. There's a little patch of forest there that I think might be on some state land bordering the Hammonasset Connector. But the primary species present in the pond are two ranid frogs, bullfrogs and green frogs, both of which use permanently flooded wetlands, both of which are, common urban pond species, and both of which were at very high densities. The other species we saw were a small number of gray tree frog and then one fairly sizable snapping turtle that probably moves into the pond in the spring to take advantage of some of the larvae that are present. In my report, there's a little more detail on the pond sampling and some photos of what we caught. But there were no fish in the pond. And with respect to the small population of spotted salamanders, my speculation is that at least what we usually see in these kinds of environments is they'll breed in these permanently flooded ponds, but they're suboptimal habitat, mostly because the larvae, predators of the larvae are bullfrogs and green frog tadpoles, which are multi-year tadpoles, and they're very large in comparison to the spotted salamander larvae. And there's some photos of both larvae in my report. So the spotted salamander larvae are typically preyed upon pretty heavily by bullfrogs and green frogs, and especially in what we've seen in these small ponds where you don't have shoreline vegetation, either emergent herbaceous vegetation or dense shrubs where the larvae can find some refuge, the predation rates are usually pretty significant. That's a pretty good summary of what's on site for the wetlands. My report includes, your sort of standard requirements for functions and values, descriptions, and evaluation. That's in my report. But in terms of an overview of the wetland conditions, I think that fairly well covers it. So I can hand it over to Abigail unless you have any questions.
So I haven't seen the report yet, Eric. So should this be approved, what effect do you think this whole development will have on the small amount of wildlife that does live there?
Yeah, so that's obviously.
I know that's a Conservation Commission question, but
No,
I'll ask it.
No, that's a good question, and honestly, something I thought once we got into the full-blown, process, at the next hearing and such, we would dive into. But no, it's a great question, which I intended to talk about.
Okay.
So, that was my reasoning behind mentioning, that the species that we did find are, what we classify as disturbance-tolerant species. They're urbanized species, with the exception of the spotted salamander, which is clearly breeding in a habitat that's, not a typical habitat. It's not a vernal pool in the sense that this is a permanently flooded pond. That was the only species of any real conservation significance, although, there's still, it's a widespread species and common in every town in Connecticut, but, it has vernal pool association. So that was, at least from my perspective, the only interesting species we saw. But I think in this habitat condition, I just don't think it's a long-term viable population just because it's a permanent pond. The species that make up the major biomass of the pond, they're going to live in an urbanized pond regardless of the condition, whether the site development is modified or not. I actually think the perimeter vegetation that we're planning for the site, which includes converting a large portion of this lawn into native vegetation, which Abigail's going to go through. That was the primary purpose and having Abigail on board to do that design was, right now you have a pond that's just basically surrounded by lawn. So without a wetland buffer that's vegetated and is simply lawn, the habitat value is just low. And it's going to remain low no matter what you have on the rest of the site. So the goal was to naturalize that lawn area with native vegetation and try to get some tree cover and some shading as you move to the west, which again, Abigail will walk you through that. But we've got a really detailed planting plan to kind of, naturalize the site.
Okay, thank you.
About aquatic plants. A lot of these types of permanent ponds in lawn systems tend to be highly eutrophied. So I don't, last time we did a site walk there years ago, but I wonder, is this covered with duckweed? Is there a lot of algae? What's going on with respect to that?
Yeah, that's a good question. No, it's not. There is no significant population of duckweed. There's very little aquatic plants, mostly because there's no shallow transition from upland to deep water. As you know, you need that shallow water to support emergent vegetation in aquatics. It could support things like milfoil and some of the the nasty invasive aquatics. But generally, when you go from shoreline to 5 to 8 feet of water, you don't have a lot of vegetation just because you don't have the sun exposure. But so it definitely has a eutrophied, more on that more eutrophied side of the scale, especially on the northern part of the pond. And it's definitely a warm water, probably a low oxygen pond, although we didn't do any kind of sampling like that. But I don't know if that answers your question or not. But we did not a lot of aquatics there at all.
Okay, just some of these ponds that I've been into in town, especially these permanent ones, just end up, by June, May.
Yeah, very dense vegetation and very shallow water. Yeah,
or just with that filamentous algae all over the place.
Yeah, and there is some filamentous algae that we saw early in the season, but it's not too bad on this site, and I think it's because the pond is a bit deeper. It probably gets to 8, like I said, probably gets to 8+ feet, and since it intercepted groundwater, I think it's the source of the water is a bit cooler. I think what you're describing, which I see a lot on small ponds, is generally when they're fed by surface runoff, through a discharge from a pipe. This has no pipe discharge, so I think the water is a little bit cleaner.
Okay.
So should we have go to Abigail and have her explain the landscape plan?
Yes.
Sure. Yeah, that'd be great.
Great, thank you. Good evening. For the record, my name is Abigail Adams, registered landscape architect, owner of A2 Land Consulting out of New Fairfield, Connecticut. Thank you, Mike, for pulling up the plan. Mike and Eric did a very good job of giving a good overview of the landscape plan that we're presenting. And Mike, if you can just zoom in a little bit more. Thank you. Perfect. That's great. Thank you. So just quickly starting over from the corner of Mill and Cottage Road, we are doing some aesthetic landscaping there at the corner, really to make this very visual focal point. There is a massive beech tree on the corner of that intersection, which we are trying to maintain. We'll have to do some root pruning and some top pruning of that tree for the installation of the underground drainage system. But we are removing a lot of the existing vegetation and coming in with some viburnum, rhododendron, hydrangeas, things like that, clethra. Keeping the large cedar. We're trying to keep some of the other trees that are in the end islands. There's an existing maple and an existing cherry to remain. At the main entrance drive on Mill, we're looking to do 2 trees for ornamentals. Then down along Mill, road, we would do a row of bohol maples there for some streetscaping along the fence line, which is nice, a split rail fence. We'd like to keep that motif. It's very country. It looks great, and it's very appropriate for the design and the site. As we move into the site, the back of the buildings, we're maintaining some lawn between the apartment building and the pond. But as you can see, we've developed very heavy pockets of buffer plantings. We've got a lot of native vegetation in the buffer areas. We have shrubs such as shadblow, clethra, elderberry, black chokeberry, American cranberry bush, winterberry, trying to keep these really beautiful buffer areas that are going to not only help with naturalizing that buffer between the developed area and the pond, but also for four-season interest for the residents of the apartments as well. This is for everybody. We want it to be appropriate for the site, appropriate for the end users, etc. In the stormwater wetland area, we've proposed a significant amount of herbaceous plugs such as swamp aster, bulrush, boneset, Joe Pyeweed, arrow arum. We just really wanted to get in a lot of different species in order to create habitat and food sources for some of the wildlife that Eric was talking about. On the western side between the pond and mill, we've created these areas, these pockets of canopies and shrub plantings, excuse me, so that the salamanders, if they are moving across Mill Street, I'm not sure, Mike, if you had mentioned it, that we were going to be dropping a portion of the curb. It's going to be a Cape Cod curb. Is that correct?
Yes, and you're correct. No, I did not mention.
Okay.
But go ahead. Yep.
Excellent. That's fine. So that if the salamanders are moving across from the other side of Mill onto this property to get to the pond, they're able to get over that curb and they're able to move through taller grasses with the canopy down to the pond rather than moving through the exposed lawn area. There is a small dashed line that you might be able to see. It's the separation between maintained lawn and what we are proposing as a no-mow mix, so that the area, the back half of the property looks very park-like. You'll have that maintained lawn edge with the taller no-mow mix that would only be probably mown once a year, I would suggest. And let's see here. Then towards the north end, the back of the property, we are adding back in some pine trees, some evergreens, and some shadblow just as a backdrop to the pond. And then where the septic area would be, all of those invasives would be removed, all of that area cleared out, and that would again be the no-mow mix with some green giant arborvitaes in the northwest corner, and then some green giant arborvitaes also along the eastern property line as a screen and buffer between the neighboring apartment buildings. That was a lot of information very quickly, but hopefully I got it all in there.
Thank you. Are there questions from agency members on any aspects of the landscape plans for Abigail? So I guess I'll ask, I need to look at this more closely. Did you anticipate adding a monitoring plan, or shall we, of course, we will recommend one.
Yeah, we can definitely, we have not included that in this original submission, but we can absolutely work on doing that monitoring and a maintenance plan as well.
Will the grass be greener over the septic tanks?
Good question. maybe a little taller.
Okay, that's good.
And your no-mow areas that you've delineated, that since they're on the site plan, I'm assuming that is part and parcel of this application, that's the intention, is to keep those
Yes,
no or once per year mow.
that is correct.
And I guess just thinking of your plants, it sounded like you're putting what kind of maples along the street?
It's a bow maple. That's the hybrid. So it's columnar and it's more narrow than other maple trees. Acer rubrum bow.
Okay. And that's just because it's a good street tree?
It's a good street tree. It's got gorgeous fall color. They don't get too massive.
But most of the rest of your plantings, I mean, you mentioned some ornamentals in passing. Are mostly going to be native?
I would say a large majority, if not a significant majority, is native material. I'd have to go through and see if I even have anything that's not native. Well, the Cleveland pear is not. We have a couple of hydrangeas, the Annabelle hydrangea. Some people consider it regionally native, and a couple of Japanese holly to screen the utilities and the refuse area. But other than that, we have the sumac, the rose bay, rhododendron, mountain laurel. Majority is native material.
Okay. I'm taking up a lot of question space. Someone else. Go, Joe.
Okay, just a point for John DeLaura, because I think I see the future here. If this gets approved, could you just reach out to the property owner or the applicant? I see them wanting a gazebo down the road, and maybe they would want to add it, because I don't see anything for outdoor recreation or outdoor congregation. Maybe they'd want to think about that now while the plant's in front of us. Not that I'm recommending it. That's just my nickel.
Yeah, well, I think, one thing, if we are going to have this constructed, if this happens and there's this constructed stormwater right next to the pond's edge, that will need to be, you don't want people trampling in there.
No, I can see it more being up by the septic, near the, up toward Mill Street. Not over it, just on the lawn there. I just see that being a proposal down the road.
Okay, well, it looks like that blue line, if I heard Mike correctly, is the 100-foot review line. So they could potentially keep, there's a little sliver in the leaching field area for a gazebo. Otherwise, yes, it would have to come back as to us or section 13. But yeah, I mean, I guess the one consideration is, if you have 18 units with one person each, you could potentially have 36 people. And I guess we'll want to think carefully about that constructed wetland, since it is part of the stormwater treatment. Like, it is functionally part of it if it's getting pumped, stormwater there, and rainwater, I guess. Or no, I guess I can't remember where that goes, but it's part of this stormwater management system. So I think it will need to be recognized as such.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other questions? We have a lot of information, so that hopefully we'll make next month quicker. But this is good to get a lot of the information up front. I will personally say I am super impressed with the spotted salamanders. I have seen them in some permanent ponds, but think it's great that they're there, and that's pretty impressive. 24 egg masses isn't any, isn't nothing. So that's kind of cool. But that's just me. Excited
Yeah.
about amphibian. Are there any other questions about this application?
I move we receive application 21-3135 Cottage Road.
I'll second it.
All right, I think we're all discussed. Any discussion? Got a nanosecond. Okay, all in favor of accepting this for receipt tonight?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you to all of you for providing us with lots of information. See you next month.
See you next month.
Thank you.
Before you do that, Kayla, and maybe I may be stepping on procedure here, but would you be setting this for a site walk, or would you wait until the next meeting to do that?
No, we'd have to do it now. If we're going to do a site walk, we would have to set it now, because we would vote, presumably, unless something comes up, that we would be voting on this in November.
Okay.
So I will, do the agency members, are we feeling like we want to get out and see this area? It is a significant amount of work and change.
I don't know, John, what do you think? You think it's worth us going out there? I'm pretty comfortable with what I've seen, but
Yeah,
I don't know what I haven't seen either, so.
Well, I don't, you're going to see a couple of buildings, a lot of pavement, and a pond with grass all around it. I mean, it's pretty, the way it was described, pretty much, I mean, a sidewalk is always beneficial. We did one on the property next door.
Right.
And that, and I think that helped the agency, come to a decision. So it's really up to you. I've seen it so many times that for me, it's a water course with grass, grass there, but you guys are, you're the ones that have to make the decision.
Well, I'm always happy to go out to a pond, but I'm going to drag everyone with me.
Right.
So, are there thoughts? What do you guys think? I mean, if for those who were on the sidewalk last time, it is, it's very clearly, an excavated pond. There definitely were a lot of invasives on the north side. There were, as was pointed out, native species, plant vegetation as well on that north side. It is, as I recall, much as was described tonight. I'm sensing a lack of interest in a site walk. Would that be an accurate assessment?
Yes, from my perspective anyway, but.
That's fine.
I'll speak for everybody else.
Someone's got to speak up. Everyone's just. Okay.
I'm okay with no site walk.
Okay, so I think we're fine. I assume we can drive by and just look from the road to refresh our memories on that. Okay, so Mike, no, we won't do a site walk. So
Okay, thanks.
we'll just see you next month.
Okay. All right, thanks. Thank you very much, guys.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good night.
Thank you.
So we are gonna do our best to get through the rest of our agenda very quickly. So we are moving on to section 13 approvals. We have 21-26, 115 Boston Post Road. You're muted.
I'm having a bad night. It happens. So you've looked at this before. This is the one where they did on Boston Post Road. I think maybe, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 months ago. They did an addition to the single family residence in a deck. This is when they the architect thought that there was no wetlands because there was no wetland soil. Based on Richard Snarski's flagging, he did say that there's no wetland soil, so they assumed that there was no wetlands, not thinking of a water course, which was the pond. So maybe that refreshes your memory.
Yes, yes.
But so there were two things that you approved then. It was the deck was 15.3 feet from the edge of the water course. The house was 29.2 feet. This section 13 allows for the replacement of a garage further away, approximately 48 feet from the closest flag at the perimeter of the water course, to a garage that's going to take a bigger garage, a small 2-car garage burned. This is a 3-car garage in relatively the same area, but 48 feet, from the flagged area. It's a 3-bay garage instead of a 2-bay. So it's larger, but and a bit closer to the wetlands, but it's grass. There's a very gentle slope. And based on the previous approvals, I didn't think the agency would have a big concern about it. They did. I noticed that in the application, they refer to E&S erosion control barriers being installed prior to construction, but I didn't see it on the plan. It wasn't on the plan that they submitted. So I'll make a note of that, to have that updated and have that plan revised to show exactly where they want to put the E&S structure, the E&S barrier.
Okay.
So that's pretty much it. I didn't see there's no trees coming down. Really little disturbance. So.
Okay. Well, I think that sounds fine. Does anybody else have questions?
Nope.
Okay. All right. Well, then our second.
Thank you.
Done. Thank you.
Yep.
Our second one. Yeah. 21-28, 21 Scenic Road.
Yes. That's a single family residential failure. It's in the same location.
Okay.
It complies with, the health and wetlands, or not wetlands, but the health and the setbacks from the road, as well as all the other infrastructure. So it's really in the same space. What's going to happen is they're going to excavate the failed system. The new system is going to go in, and then the excavation will fill, where the old system was. So nothing is going to be added. Nothing's going to be removed for material.
Okay. Well, that.
Okay.
There's a lot of these. I mean, they're
Yeah.
failing left and right. It's just, I think they were probably all put in when you were just people in the 70s, before any restrictions on where you could put them in close to wetlands. They were filling the wetlands, putting these in, and they're just failing. There's 2 more that are going to come up probably next month.
Okay.
So.
Well, that sounds good. At least it's doesn't sound like it's having any impact. Well, thank you for the section 13. So we are moving on to our minutes. I looked at the minutes. I was happy. I didn't see anything egregious. Did anybody else?
There's a couple typos, I think.
Okay.
They're not important typos, but they're typos. 645 Green Hill Road. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, line 14. It says it is expect, and I think it's meant to say it is expected, probably.
Yeah.
And then 2 lines from the bottom of page 2, it says actual wetland mediation. I think it's supposed to say remediation.
Okay.
Those are the only two I saw. There might be more, but
Okay. That's great. Thank you for catching those. Did anybody else find anything else with
I didn't see anything substantive.
Okay, yeah, I missed those typos. I didn't see anything substantive either. Okay, well, should we approve the minutes with those typos noted?
I'll make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes of September 13th, 2021 with the 2 noted corrections.
I second.
Excellent. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Excellent. Okay. So comments. Let's see. I have no comments. Except it's nice to see you guys as always. And John, do you have, oh, you're muted. You're
muted,
still
John.
muted.
I have allergies, so I don't want to gross you guys out. So I'm shutting my mic off and I forget to turn it back on. I apologize for that. Last month on 645 Green Hill, where he did all the cutting. The agency asked that he put together a restoration plan, possibly get maybe Rich Snarski and an arborist from, landscape firm. And he's doing that. He just wasn't able to get it ready for this meeting, but he'll have it for the November 1st meeting, just so you know that we haven't forgot about it and it will come up in November.
Okay.
So
Well, that'll be good.
that'll be interesting.
All right. We had a very long meeting. Thank you. We got through a whole bunch of applications, so that's good.
Yeah.
But now we're ready to say goodbye.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
I second.
Excellent. All right. All in favor. Thank you, Bob.